What's up guys, Manny from Motomillion, and this is the official walk around of the Motomillion R1M. Guys, here it is, the Motomillion R1M, and its completed form puts a smile on my face because it's so beautiful, especially under this Miami sun. All the carbon is popping. We're gonna get to the carbon, but let's start off with some of the big bits that's done to this bike. First off, this Brembo braking package we put on the bike, the GP4RX front calipers, the underslung Brembo caliper in the back, the T-drive rotors, which are the best street rotors you could run on these things, and also the carbon fiber braided brake lines. This is not carbon look, guys. It's actually carbon braided. This line, here's a stat for you, holds 16,900 PSIs. Just think about it. That's not a mistaken number. That's the actual number that this line is rated to, 16,900 PSI. That's just crazy, and that's why this brake lever feels so good, partly because of the caliper and partly because of these very special brake lines that are on this bike. And while we're in the front, these wheels, the OZ Racing forged aluminum wheels in the special edition finish, which is the matte blue color. And the wheels on this bike came purple, guys. I don't know, purple is not Yamaha blue. And this bike has some Yamaha blue accents. I think these wheels, especially outside, matches this bike so much better. And it really pops. And when you take a look at the bike in the beginning, I say it all the time, subtlety. It's so subtle because this bike comes with bluish wheels, but you really have to start poking around to see the differences. And right up here, we have a Rizoma mirrors. I've said it before, no one buys these things for the aero benefits, I think, but most people buy it for how good they look, and also they do function as mirrors. And if you're my body type, guys, if you're riding on the Ducatis and on the Yamahas, I can't see behind me because of my body type. All I see are my shoulders. I can't adjust the mirrors. With this thing, at least when I'm riding, I could just lift my elbow up, see behind me, and continue on. And I think it adds a lot of functionality as well as the looks. I don't put them down when I'm riding. I only do it when it's stopped just to take a look at the bike and how good it looks. But I really think these are such great pieces, especially now that I can see behind me without using the big bar end mirrors on these bikes. One other thing that's very functional, and to me, it gives it that race look that I like, is this WRS windscreen. It's the double bubble format. It's taller, and its speed you could tuck behind it. It does wonders. That's why all the race teams run it. And if you take a look now, almost most of the MotoGP field is running WRS windscreens. Why? Because go behind your windscreen if you have one and try to look through it and look around and see how much distortion there is. WRS has the least distortion, and that's what you want, especially in high level of racing like MotoGP and World Superbike. That's why a lot of the teams have switched over to the WRS windscreens. And while we're up front, you're saying, where do your turn signals go? They're right here. They're right inside of our front daytime running lights. If you guys can take a look, the sun is blaring and you could still tell that we're signaling. I mentioned it to you guys before, on other bikes, safety is a big thing for me, and having functional lights and turn signals on a street bike is a must. And that's our daytime running light harness that we run on these bikes that functions the way that it does. So you don't have to run any external turn signals when you're running these mirrors. And one other big thing that we've done on the bike is change every single plastic part that you see on the bike to carbon fiber. Yes, the R1M comes with carbon fiber, and I don't know why, but there's some pieces that come plastic. I'm sure Yamaha could have done them with carbon, but I think it's a cost thing that they got to keep the bikes under a certain amount of money to produce and to sell. So these pieces here, I think they're called air tube covers. We'll call it side covers. These are black plastic. And if you come take a look over here, this is one of my favorite pieces on the bike because this was two-piece plastic. It was black painted and the dull black plastic inside here. Now the bike looks so much wider when you're riding it because the Yamaha feels really skinny, which is a really good thing when you're riding it. but it gives it that wider look that it just looks better, guys. These beautiful winglets, these are the full 6 carbon fiber winglets. They have an added aero benefit. Full 6 releases the full data on them if you guys want to take a look. They actually do wind tunnel test them, and I think it's called fluid dynamics, that they do stuff on the computer that they test to show you how much aero that it adds onto the bikes. But again, these are street bikes. Most of the things that we do is race inspired. Obviously we like functional things, but also we look at the added beauty and aesthetics of stuff. And I think nowadays that every single superbike or every single relevant superbike comes with winglets on it. This brings this bike up to the level of everything else that's out there. And I think it's a super tasteful upgrade on the bike. And if you also take a look at Jorge Lorenzo, he's done some testing on Yamahas for them, for their, I think it was for the World Superbike program. They took an R1 and they added the winglets on it, which are almost identical to these things that are on here. So it goes to show you, even pros put these things on to ride them, because in racing, I think they're using them in the endurance series right now for Yamaha. And another piece that was plastic that's carbon now is this top tank cover, guys. This part was plastic, this part was black. Now we've changed it to match the theme of the bike. And again, like I said, someone who didn't know might have not noticed this and thought it's either the bike didn't come carbon and we added all the carbon, or if you know a little bit about the R1M, you would have thought that, hey, this was from a factory. And that's what I really, really enjoy, because you don't take away from the DNA of the bike, right? This bike, when you look at it, still is an R1M. We didn't go change the colors to pink, purple, yellow. We kept that R1M DNA. We just added a little bit of spice to it that it looks so nice. And talking about spice, let's talk about Skittles. These things, guys, these are MotoGP buttons or MotoGP lookalike buttons that are now on this bike that has every single street function. So we have our headlights, turn signals, horn, all the many functions, everything operates with these beautiful WRS switches. And on the right side, the throttle housing is now inside here, because on the 2020 and newer R1Ms and R1s, you now have an electronic throttle. It's a very expensive item to replace if you go down, if it breaks. So this kind of protects it as well. And also for you guys who trailer your bikes, if you trailer from the grips, these things break easily when they're plastic, and now it's not gonna break. And also we have our wide handlebars. These are by Performance Technology / Ducabike. Yes, they make other parts other than Ducati parts, guys, and these are it. The handlebars are wider. What does that do? It adds the leverage that you want when you counter steer on the bikes. I think it's one of the major differences that we've done to this bike that makes it a lot more enjoyable to ride. It's not a look thing, but it's a function thing. Yes, it does look wider now because of the handlebars too, but you really have to look out for the wider handlebar to see it. And at the end of this handlebar, we have our full 6 carbon fiber lever guards, and all the carbon on this bike, guys, be it the stock stuff and the stuff that we added, everything matches. All the weaves are the same, all the finishes the same, and that's how it's supposed to be, right? Again, you can't, I think if someone looks at the bike, they're not going to be able to come and tell me, hey, this was stock and this wasn't, because everything is matching. And to match our front Brembo calipers, we have our Corsa Corta master cylinder up front. As I mentioned, it feels so good. We have our TWM low drag lever end right on it as well, and also our Rizoma reservoir to match everything else that's on this bike. It just gives it that premium touch, I think. It's all these little subtle differences that add up to something that we would call a Motomillion R1M, because this thing is just adorned with beautiful parts. And also this piece right here, these were plastic pieces from the factory. Now they're carbon fiber. And also these tank side panels here, these were also plastic that they're now carbon. And also this piece right under here, the bottom tail piece was plastic, now it's carbon. I think that concludes all the plastic parts on the bike that were switched on to carbon fiber, which again, I think the R1M should have come like that, but we understand there's behind the scenes stuff that happens with manufacturers that they can't always do what they want or what we want. But that's when we come in to make stuff like this happen. And let's speak about the elephant in the room. If you guys know this bike, you know this super special exhaust system. This is not the Acra Evo model, because the Evo is attached to your rear sets. This is a little longer with the runner and tiny little bit longer with the canister over here. This is the World Superbike system, the Superstock system for superbikes. And that's why this bike put down some crazy numbers on the dyno for an R1M. And guys, we don't fudge the numbers. we really don't care because at the end of the day, they're numbers. But for me, what the difference is, the delta, the difference where we took this bike to stock to dyno and the numbers afterwards that we got from it, it's just crazy. I've never seen an R1 without being touched to the engine, put down 198 horsepower. And I think the big part of it is this beautiful exhaust system. But also don't forget, we have the Brent tuning flash on this bike, the race filter, and if you could peek through, we've done some upgrades like the gold tape that keeps the heat out of the airbox to keep everything flowing cool and nice so that the bike makes the maximum power. And also, if you guys watched our 50th anniversary video, we put that bike onto the dyno with the same exhaust, with the same mods, and it was within 0.1 or 2 horsepower. That goes to show how accurate the dyno readings that we get are. I'm not going to go into details why. You guys can go watch those videos. We're very particular on how we get the bikes dynoed. It's in the video, it's in the details there. You guys can go check that video out if you wonder. This is a race-only exhaust. It comes with this belly pan. That's the full race belly pan. And what does that mean? This thing holds fluid. So yes, it has the street cred of having a full race part on the bike, but also you got to watch out because this thing actually holds fluid in there. So if you wash your bike, you got to be very careful of not leaving a ton of water in there. But luckily, it's just a few bolts that you take off to drain it if you ever have to. And why does it have to hold fluid? Well, in racing, if your motor blows, the last thing they want is oil on the track. So these things are designed to hold that oil in case it starts leaking. It holds quite a bit of fluid, I think 4 or 5 liters in here. And that's where that comes from. And right up here, a little subtle touch is this TWM oil filler cap, guys. Stuff like this goes unnoticed. And that's what I like, because when I do the walkarounds, I really have to think, oh my God, what did the bike have? Because sometimes when you look at it, it goes unnoticed. Just like these DH83 radiator guards that finishes the front end in the black look. And I always forget to mention the Ohlins dampers, guys, because it's always buried down beneath the bodywork of the bikes. This thing has the Ohlins damper to match all the other Ohlins shocks that are on this bike and the fork that's on this bike. This has the manual upgrade, so you get rid of the electronic Ohlins damper, which kind of is not the best one out there, so we upgraded to the mechanical system. Again, we did part by part videos for this bike, guys. If you guys ever want to see the full progress of this bike, just check out our channel. It's in a bunch of series that we did where we added the parts. We talk about the parts in detail so you guys can get to see it. But also another thing that I really like, these Pro Grip 717 grips. These, we used to put them always on the Ducatis. Now the Ducatis are actually coming with them. I think the S models and some of the models like the R and the SPs are coming with them from the factory. We have the black and blue to match Yamaha's color scheme on this bike. And one of the last things that we did was this Gale Speed rear master cylinder. If you guys take a look, there's a lacquer rear reservoir here. This has the integrated reservoir. And if you guys look throughout the bike, we're running our stall bus bleeder valves everywhere. And this thing is mounted onto our Gillies tooling rear sets. It does an amazing job by hiding the integrated reservoir of this thing. Another thing that I like, I already mentioned the carbon fiber brake lines, but if you guys look around the bike, all these carbon brake lines are poking throughout, going through the bike. And just knowing that it's carbon when I see it, it just puts a smile into my face, because I think that's what it's all about, right, guys? We don't care. Well, I wouldn't advise anyone to go do stupid stuff on the road with this bike, but you want it for your own enjoyment. Even if you're looking at the bike, you want it to look really cool. Another really functional upgrade, I think, is this TWM fuel cap. This is a quarter turn. You open it, fill up, put it back in, and as I say, go make some noise afterwards. This comes in carbon. But I think for the sake of just keeping the bike a little more subtle, not just throwing a bunch of carbon on it, I opted with the CNC machine look. But again, if you go either way, I don't think there's a wrong way of doing that. And also another OEM piece that was carbon was this rear tail piece. It has the GPS on it from the factory in case you want to take your bike to the track and you want to get some accurate GPS lap times. It has it up there. And right here is our rear wheel. It's the same as the front wheel. It's the OZ Racing forged aluminum wheel, but we have our underslung caliper, as I mentioned, our TWM chain adjusters, which make it super easy in part with this caliper that's underslung to take this rear wheel off and put it back on. You don't have to mess around with the chain tension, and that's what these things are for. Also, our ultralight rear wheel disc. These are used in racing, guys. I think we get a lot of comments about, oh, it's missing a bunch of chunks. If you guys look at even Motor America, they're running these rotors and they run it for the lightweight effects. Most of the braking on a superbike is done with the front brakes anyways. So these are not any kind of danger or anything that is compromised that's on the bike, because that's the last thing that we want to do. Another piece that came plastic on this bike was this rear fender and also, or the rear hugger as we call it, and our chain guard. These were plastic pieces that's now upgraded to our carbon pieces. And now you get to see our beautiful Sitta 520 conversion kit on this bike. This saves a load of weight. I think it's about 2 pounds. And we're running our Pro-Tie titanium nuts for the sprocket, and we're running our trusted 3D chains by EK. And also another piece that I really like, that these are some of the new pieces that came out, our Geely's Tooling front sprocket cover, guys. This is so cool. This was, again, plastic. We could have put a carbon one on it, but I think this machine piece, this is just a thing of beauty. It's just a sculpted piece that adds so much to the look of the bike. And also, you get to see the front sprocket through it. So when, I don't know when you'd say it's spinning, but at least you get to see it standing still over here, because if it's spinning, it should be on the bike and not off the bike, guys. Also, another carbon piece, this electronics cover. This was a plastic piece, and this is so cool because of the sculpted shape that it has. And it goes to show you how great of a piece that Full Six is able to make, to keep it mounting up all to the stock pieces of the bike, but have this carbon fiber piece on here. But this is it, guys. This is the official walk around of the Motomillion R1M. We're going to have a special announcement. This part is part of the Motomillion Signature Series. I'm not going to go into details. I'll have another video where we talk about the Motomillion Signature Series, but this is one of those bikes, guys, and you have to take a look at that video. I know you guys are going to ask me to start this bike and rev it a little so you guys can hear it. I'm going to go do that. But first, I'll just start it up and let this bike warm up a little before we start revving it, because this thing sounds amazing. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, guys, have a great one.
Run!